Tonight, the majority of Americans, nearly 60%, are saying Trump's presidency is a failure in a new CNN poll. Now, that includes 2/3 of independents and 11% of Republicans. Obviously, not so much Republicans, but independents crucial. And there is a lot more bad news for Trump. He is underwater on every single issue, right? Usually you could pull out of it and say, well, there's this issue and this issue. Here, right now, not the case. 61% disapproval on the economy, which voters said by a nearly 2-to-1 margin was the top issue. That includes 15% of Republican voters who disapprove on the economy. And despite Trump's repeated claims that he has improved the economy, nearly half of Republicans say he hasn't done enough to bring prices down. And that obviously really stands out. Even the Federal Reserve president of Minneapolis, Neil Kashkari, who previously worked in the Bush administration administering TARP, told me he's surprised at prices every time he goes to the grocery store.
I still get sticker shock every Saturday when I go to the grocery store. And so I think that for anybody, Republican or Democrat, to try to convince the American people that they're experiencing something different than what they are living and experiencing, I think that's a tough thing to do.
Jeff Zeleny is out front with new reporting on what voters are saying is the crucial state of Georgia.
I don't know who dropped the ball in Washington to allow these prices, its trade to diminish like it has, but somebody dropped the ball. Somebody wasn't looking out for us.
On his farm here in southern Georgia, Franz Rowland is taking stock of the last year and fearful of what's ahead.
Trump says, you know, be patient. The farmer's going to be better than ever. Well, you better hurry up because we can't stand this much.
He voted for President Trump, hoping a stronger economy and better trade deals would follow.
When you hear politicians and others in Washington saying the economy's doing great, the country's never been better.
They need to come out here. They need to come out here and live in my shoes. The economy may be doing better for some people, but on the farm, it ain't doing better.
As the president begins his second year back in office, a majority of Americans call the first year a failure. Here in Georgia, a state critical to this fall's midterm elections, economic concerns are top of mind for Florence Allen.
My economy's not hot. I'm paying the bills.
Costs probably across the board have not gone down on many things.
Oh, no. My costs have not gone down on anything, not here at the store and not at home. Got it.
Allen, a Democrat, has owned her toy store for 20 years and tried to navigate a whiplash tariff policy that's impacted much of her inventory.
When you've heard the president say, we're making all this money on tariffs.
Give it back to me.
because tariffs are passed along or you swallow them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So, you know, you've raised my costs. So I think for most people, he's not fooling people with that line.
Georgia has long stood as a leading barometer for Trump's performance. He won the state in 2016, lost in 2020, and won again in 2024, flipping Baldwin County in central Georgia for the first time.
He gets A+ from me.
Janice Westmoreland said she feels more secure with Trump in office, a sentiment reflected in many of our Main Street conversations.
Do you like having him back in office?
I do. I voted for him. I'm tired of the United States getting pushed around.
Looking at where my 401k is, I'm going to give it an A.
Yeah, it's done pretty well.
Yes.
For Trump, maintaining his coalition of Republicans and independents will be at the center of the fight for control of Congress as voters weigh his broader actions, including deep cuts made to the government. V. Lay was among the hundreds of workers whose jobs were eliminated at the CDC.
Terminating me and my teams, like that's one thing, but CDC, that remains what's happening there now. That is mostly untold. Like that still continues to be really harmful.
Back on Rowland's farm, the 72-year-old Republican is as disappointed as dismayed.
Were you expecting things might get a little bit better with Trump back in office?
I did. Yeah. I thought by now we'd have some really good trade. I did think there would be that better by now. Yeah.
And Franz Rowland told us he does not see a light at the end of the tunnel here as he thinks about planting season coming up. Yes, he's grateful for the government assistance, but ERIN, he said he is disappointed with what he thought President Trump would do in office. Of course, that is one of the challenges facing the White House. That disappointment is going to lead to votes in the midterm elections. But Rowland left us with this thought. Yes, he likes assistance, but he said farmers want trade, not aid. Erin.
All right, Jeff Zeleny, thank you very much. Max Rose, Gretchen Carlson are here. So Gretchen, I found that man extremely compelling, that Trump voter, and I don't know, maybe it's just his personality, but he seemed to exude a feeling of weariness and sadness that was hard to turn away from. He told Jeff, you better hurry up because we can't stand this much longer. And these numbers, obviously, polls are a snapshot in time. They're a balance sheet, they're not an income statement, but they aren't good. How worried should Trump be?
I think he should be worried, especially maybe not Trump, but the Republicans running for the midterm should be worried. Look, he had so much power when he got all the independents and became president of the United States on the economy and on immigration. He is his own worst enemy. He should be flying high with all of these things. Instead, he's calling affordability a hoax. And now he's sending in more ICE agents to Minnesota. And the majority of Americans do not agree with either one of those things. Then you have only 29% of independents supporting him. I mean, that is really bad news for Republicans coming into the midterms. And I know that Trump oftentimes only cares about himself. But if he wants to get anything else done moving forward, he better start changing his tune to help the Republicans. Or the flip side would be the Republicans start speaking out against him.
Right. Now, of course, few and far between when that happens, how long it lasts. But as you point out, you never know, right? The numbers will become the numbers. Max, the Cook Political Report has just shifted 18 different House races to Democrats. Sure. Okay. Now, by the way, it's January. So if there are Democrats watching, they shouldn't get excited yet. Who knows? David Plouffe has a lot of warning signs tonight. But I guess that's the question. How do the Democrats see such a moment? And not sit around dancing and getting all excited and going off and talking about their special little pet projects that are not compelling to people either.
Sure. Certainly the Democrats should not go out there and try to find new issues that are potentially divisive. But what an opportunity here. If you just look at the state of the House and, quite frankly, the Senate as well, Democrats seem to be awfully united around a bold agenda, which is not something we've seen in a long time. And certainly we are seeing Donald Trump just abandon what he promised he would do. Remember, this was the guy that said, for instance, that he wasn't going to start new wars, right? He was going to end them. He ran on opposition to forever wars. More service members in the Middle East today than when he started. Invades Venezuela, talking now about invading and annexing Greenland. This is military adventurism writ large, and it is alienating his base. But the reason why Republicans are so vulnerable is the elected officials are just following him blindly, and they're going to do so to their electoral detriment.
Gretchen, what's interesting is that you've heard, and maybe some of these aren't people who would surprise people, but recently Mitch McConnell, Tom Tillis is not obviously running for re-election, they're standing up. But you're hearing it from some MAGA powerhouses. So Trump met with Tucker Carlson at the White House today. Tucker's been getting slammed. The screed by Laura Loomer, the right-wing activist who's obviously very powerful in this administration about Tucker, was very, very direct. Do you think we're going to see more MAGA voices like Laura speaking out?
We have been. I mean, the second administration for Trump, MAGA has been ultra fractured. We started seeing the influencers come out right in the beginning. But in the last week, I would say that the most important one was Joe Rogan saying, do we really want the Gestapo in Minneapolis? Now, most people, unlike the three of us, probably are not paying attention to news every single moment of every single day. This is why influencers are so important. They decided the last election. And in this case, a person who's saying independent, here's Joe Rogan say that, and that's the headline that they remember for the whole week or 2 weeks. And they're like, wait a minute, is this what we voted for, right? I think that the fracturing started early on with the influencers. We'll see if it moves into Republicans in the House and the Senate. But the Epstein vote, I'm going to keep going back to that. I mean, I think we're going to remember that as maybe a turning point when some got guts to do something different.
All right, and then there was something that Frank Luntz, the veteran pollster, pointed out. This was fascinating. Last night caught my eye. He points out that in Alabama districts, so this is red, okay? Nobody's talking about this possibly going Democratic. I mean, all right, dream there, Max. But it went 18 for Trump in 2024. It just went Republican by 29.
Wow.
Okay, by 29. Now, obviously, this is a local district, but it does point out something that I don't think a lot of people have been hearing lately. They're all hearing, 18 races are turning Democrat. Red states that, some districts are going Democrat. What I just said there, is that a unicorn? Or is that a canary that Democrats should watch?
It's not a canary for Democrats. What you're seeing is, look at these special elections, right? The vast majority of them in swing areas went to the Democrats. So that's increased political polarization. Certainly, I think the base, which is Alabama in a lot of ways, might be still with Trump. But that small base, that 25, 30%, is not representative of the majority. That's why so many of these Republicans in these swing areas are caught between such a rock and a hard place. That's why Dan Sullivan in Alaska has to try to figure out how to defend what just happened in Venezuela, has to try to figure out how to back the president who wants to annex Greenland. It's a horrible place for him to be in. That's why he's going to lose.
Yeah, well, I like that kind of a unicorn or a canary. It was one of those ones where I feel like I would somehow have mixed my animals, my creatures, and
It's
not
okay.
gotten
We
it. I think
understood
I
what you meant.
did. All right, thank you both. And now